This program is designed to provide general information with regards to the subject matters covered. This information is given with the understanding that neither the hosts, guests, sponsors, or station are engaged in rendering any specific and personal, medical, financial, legal, counseling, professional service, or any advice. You should seek the services of competent professionals before applying or trying any suggested ideas.
Good morning, true seekers and true crime junkies. Welcome back to another episode of Hit the Road Jack, Finding the Zodiac. I'd like to welcome to the show this morning, Nolan Del Campo.
Good morning, Nanette. Good morning, world.
Yeah, right? The whole wide world. And Harriet Suchet.
Yes, good morning. By phone from hotter than you know what in May. Section of California.
Is it 100 degrees over there already?
Oh, it's been almost 90 this week every day, and I'm still dealing with my situation, but I haven't heard anything, so I'm here. I have to get ready for the heat. So
yeah, most definitely. It's been definitely very, very warm here in Sacramento for this last week. Oh my goodness.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so
beautiful today.
Yeah. I woke up and it was still nice and cool. Although the sun is out, it's threatening. It's going to have a nice warm one, I think, today. The wind doesn't seem very strong to cool us off. So, well, that means the AC is running again. So I basically pulled up another comment from a YouTuber who had looked at Dennis's video on the podcast channel, and the individual is Grizzly Whisker with a little kitty cat as his icon, which I thought was adorable. They commented, "Some of this seems very compelling and some of it seems like nonsense. Interesting video though. He certainly looks just like the famous Zodiac sketch." That tickled me because honestly speaking, I mean, how many other people can say that about their suspect?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Y'all here with me, Nolan?
Oh, yeah. That's true. I mean, there is a striking resemblance.
A very, very striking resemblance. I know that I didn't pay much attention in the very beginning when I got involved with these cases. Dennis was very, very hot about me wanting to, or having me look at his website, see his evidence, his pictures, his everything. And I kept telling him, no. And I think it was kind of infuriating him a little bit, but I just wanted to do my job without having to know anything else about Jack at that particular point in time. Because when it boils down to it, all that really matters is the handwriting. I have a lot of people who call me on cases and they want to give me their backgrounds and they want to chew my ear for about an hour and a half because they've been dealing with something for 2 or 3 years. And I get it that it's very personal to them, but the reality is I don't need any of that information, and I don't need anybody to ask what I've been told as if that's going to bias me in some way. So literally when I take these stories from people, it goes in one ear and out the other. And then I do my handwriting examination and I have to come back and ask questions. And they're like, well, I told you, I don't care what you told me then. I need to know what you say now after I've done my examination.
Yeah.
Professionally, that's the best way to do it for you.
Go one at a time.
Do it without being, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead, Harry.
No, I was going to say that's what I do too. If somebody asks me to do something, now I say, okay, I'm going to glance at what they were presenting, all over the place, all over the board. But, you want to go in so you're not affected, you want to see what you can see and then say, oh, okay, now I see what you're talking about. Why your suspect looks like the suspect. You want to have that point of view from your work instead of being
cutting in and out,
affected by everybody all over the place. Am I cutting out again?
A little bit. Yeah. And now go ahead, Nolan.
It's
Yeah, basically, I think the way you do it helps you maintain professional integrity. You want to do your
yeah.
job as an analyst and form your own opinions, and then maybe later catch up on the underlying facts.
Right, because sometimes they'll try to feed you information you don't necessarily need, and getting into the handwriting will usually tell me what I need to know, especially if the person was suffering from something neurological. I like to look at the handwriting myself, then ask for that explanation versus somebody feeding it to me because they likely or could be feeding it to me because they want me to presume that the person is old and infirmed, and that's why I'm looking at maybe a very deteriorated handwriting. So yeah, it keeps me honest. The integrity is there. And then I can honestly say it goes in one ear, out the other. Once I do my examination, I'll ask my questions because it really boils down to, in the end, if those differences in that person's handwriting can be explained. If they can be explained, then that's great, but they shouldn't be explained.
Yes.
Mhm,
And when
mhm.
you bring that up, just a little side note, we filed the notice of appeal in the San Diego matter. So I'll be contacting you in that regard.
Nice, nice. Yeah, I think that judge definitely needs to be appealed. If I
He
have
is
to
appeal.
listen, if I have to listen
Mhm.
to another judge say the witnesses were credible and I'm fighting for the wrong side, I think I will pull out all of my hair because you're supposed to be paying attention to the evidence, not what people say. They can lie to you, as we saw, as we pointed
Yes.
out.
I mean, in paperwork,
Mhm.
under
Right.
oath.
Under oath in deposition. Like these people lied so many times to hear the judge say, I found the witnesses credible. Oh my dear goodness. No. Anyways, let's get back to Jack because that is the notion of the day. And that's where we're going to
Mhm.
actually climb into. I did actually wanted to bring up one more thing on DB Cooper, just to make it quick. But I pulled out something that caught me, I guess, a little bit off guard. When I was reading this letter that was the David Bartholomew Copperhead letter, it said, then some guy credits himself with the masterpiece and thanks everybody for their cooperation and hospitality. And so he's obviously alluding to the letter that came out of Vancouver in the Grey Cup, where he said, thanks
Mhm.
for your hospitality. I think what he really meant was he was in the hospital there recovering from his jump. But he
Mhm.
says, well, damn it, this is making me look very stupid. These prank letters, he calls them, must stop. And that drug me back to Black Dahlia because we keep talking about in DB Cooper how he would play with the DB and make it BD. And we all thought that's a sure sign that he's hinting back at other things that was within his doings or whatever it was that he's done in the past, in the connection between the communications.
Mhm.
So I pulled up the card from Black Dahlia and it actually says Black Dahlia Avenger. So again, we're
BDA, yep.
BDA. He's now talking
Mhm.
about avenging Black Dahlia, which makes your solves, Harriet, make more sense. It says he wrote on this card, the person sending those other notes ought to be arrested for forgery. Ha ha ha. So how
Mhm.
close in the similar statement? I mean, again, okay, serial killers may write into the police. They may call victims' parents. They may brag and boast about what they've done. But how many of them accuse someone else of writing letters that they're actually writing? And here we have it happening twice in the same connection or the same connected information. And that brought us to let's see. Oh, your solve on this particular letter, Harriet, was Bill Hilliard, cooperate to topple Emeritus Hoffa. You kill woman named Black Dahlia, camera, Man Ray, Dr. George Hodel, L.A. Lots Pictures, Sam Giancana, woman, Donna Lass, killed East State Line, Nevada. Why? So
He was
here,
linking them all.
right. So we have a
Mhm.
message that's
So
actually yielding Black Dahlia's name and the reference. And this letter is going to the editor of the Oregonian, which is Bill Hilliard at the time. I just find this all to be a little bit too coincidental.
yeah,
Another,
he was a paper boy.
go
He
ahead.
was a paper boy. He was a paper boy connected to the Oregonian circa late 1940s, circa 1947-ish. So he was connected to the Oregonian. So in the 40s. So
So
I
if
mean,
he was a paper
a
boy,
lot
is
going
that
on
like,
there.
you don't mean paper boy like 14-year-old on a bicycle winging papers.
Yeah, he was delivering papers. I believe that's his biography. He was delivering papers for the Oregonian, especially in the Portland, Oregon area. So he really wanted to be a part of the newspaper biz, but he had a problem. His skin color.
So if you're saying during that era, he's 14, how's he involved with these murders?
Oh no! By 1947, see, he's connected to the Oregonian still, and so now he's taking pictures. That's according to the solves with the Hearst Corporation, saying, "Okay, you're taking these pictures because he was black, or a person of color. He was trying to get into the newspaper industry. So there's Hearst kind of supporting him and take these pictures, or else,
How old do you think he was during that time of Black Dahlia taking these pictures?
Oh, he was the same age as Jack. He was in the Navy also
17,
at the same time
18,
period.
Who's he referring to?
Yeah.
Who's Harriet referring to?
Bill Hilliard. William Hilliard is the editor of the Oregonian during the time frame of the DB Cooper case. Well, that brings me to the next oddity. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Harriet.
Oh no, I was just going to say that's where it's all going back to the 1940s, and now, it's now DB Cooper, and they're blackmailing Bill Hilliard. Remember this? You have to take part of this.
What are they hoping to get from him, other than? Do you think it's to get the letters into the newspaper? Is that maybe why he's attacking these editors? He knows that it's responsible or part of some shady business.
Well, it's a weird way of paying back your debt to society for things may have been deemed not so good, in the 1940s. But Bill Hilliard was also in the Oregonian, working as, I think, the sports editor, but still in the 1950s when they did the expose on the mob of the Get Well party where nobody got to eat. They actually won a Pulitzer Prize for that. So Bill Hilliard was on the side of helping to bring down those who were going to kill the Kennedys, who were killing people eventually, like Martin Luther King. So they're just blackmailing him for what looks like what happened in the past, to bring him into the current and to help bring down these people even all the more. They're in the end trying to bring down Giancana and Hoffa, who killed the Kennedys, who killed Martin Luther King, and other. They were deemed against America by that time, really bad, even though it started out in the 50s.
So if he's part of this, if he's part of this mafia stuff during Black Dahlia, where he's taking pictures, then why would he then later, I don't know, you said the 50s, a 10-year later, be trying to take them down? I mean, couldn't he be?
Well, he had the goods on him. So,
if he's there taking pictures, of course he has the good. Oh, so you think that maybe the letters are to keep him silent?
To just, probably at that point, but also to get him to cooperate to help bring down Hoffa, because they know how bad he even became after the 1950s.
It would be interesting to note whether or not there was any solves that came about that indicated he was to run that article on the mob and not being able to eat at that particular dinner, if that was being pressed. So when was that? Was in the 50s, you said, that he wrote that article?
No, he was involved with the Oregonian then, that was helping to bring down the mobsters. It was 1957. It was known as the Get Well Party, where nobody got to eat. And all these mobsters had gathered up in Appalachia to help bring down the Kennedys for what was going on with Bobby Kennedy being a part of going after the gangsters and mobsters. And one of the mobsters that was very angry, that was kicked out of the consortium, was Frank Costello. And Frank Costello's guy get this, was the Irishman, Frank Sheeran. So
interesting, because you don't see that mentioned. Yes. You don't see that mentioned on The Departed, although that whole movie is loosely based with Jack Nicholson on Frank Costello and his informant, being an informant for the FBI. So all very interesting
he was.
stuff.
Costello was the head of the New York mob. Costello.
I feel like they were in the Bronx, right? Yeah.
And one person that wasn't at that meeting in Appalachian, upstate New York, that was Carlos Marcello, the head of the New Orleans mob. But he sent the guy from Dallas in his place as his representative. So the guy from Dallas was there, and he got caught with everyone else. But Marcello, I think he might have been tipped off or something, but he didn't go.
Yeah, he knew. Well, that brings me to the next or the last coincidence that I found in between Black Dahlia and the DB Cooper, and that is the letter from DB Cooper that said it's a cutout letter. Again, using newspapers and magazines. It says the perfect crime, grant me amnesty, money will be returned, no harm done. So he's basically saying he will turn himself in if he gets amnesty and he'll return the money. And then in Black Dahlia, we see the similar type pattern of, again, it's cut out words from magazines and newspapers. And it says Dahlia's killer cracking wants terms. So again, swearing he's going to turn himself in, as we've seen in many of these cases. But I just about giggled when I saw that both of these I will turn myself in cards were done in a manner that were it was done in the similar way. Sorry, I lost my brain there. So we also see him say, I will give up in Dahlia killing if I get 10 years. Don't try to find me. Again, in cutouts. Another cutout said, have changed my mind. You would not give me a square deal. Square deal just for some reason hits me like a mob term every time. You wouldn't give me a square deal.
Dahlia killing letter, the water really stands out. The big W-A and T-E-R, which spells water.
And
that's kind of a hint, I think.
He'd been bathing and cleaning his victims, especially the ones that were bisected. In the lipstick killing cases, there were all bathtubs that were involved. I think even Georgette Bauerdorf was either I think she was in the bathroom and in the bathtub as well. So there was some definite connectivity to water and water being used to clean the bodies, clean the evidence, do that kind of stuff. Either way, we have very, very similar communications that are coming out here that are saying, all right, I committed the crime. I'll turn myself in. Another one that was handwritten, listed as the Black Dahlia Avenger, is here it is, turning in Wednesday, January 29th, 10 a.m. Had my fun at police, Black Dahlia Avenger. So stating he's going to turn himself in, we know clearly he's not going to. That never happens. So why the boastful letters unless there's some meaning behind it, which Harriet has kind of opened up our eyes as to other information and I don't know. Other information.
No, he was untouchable. He knew he was never going to be caught. It was planned that way.
Right.
But,
right. Yeah. How many times can you write?
He's feeling guilty. So, but anyways, that's why he could do that. He was able to taunt them.
That's all he does. The boastful man. Well, that puts us back into Jack's pocket now, because we are seeing in this December 7th, 1971 is when Nora buys the Chevy Biscayne using the address of P.O. Box 3753, South Lake Tahoe, 95705. And Jack is making his final move from the Bay Area to Northern California. I did find it interesting that, or not interesting, Dennis swore this vehicle belonged to Jack. And after I did my research and found that it was actually purchased by Nora, it doesn't negate what Dennis is saying. Jack, he may have met Jack in this car, and Jack may have very well sold this car to Nora, because guess what? In the possession of a female with 4 kids is nothing like being in the possession of a male who has been, spotted or seen at a crime scene. So that would be an easy way to off it into another family. And quite frankly, it wasn't like Nora was making a lot of money with 4 kids. How are you buying new cars? Either way. So show Dennis took this picture. He was 4 years old in Tahoe, and I think he's taking a picture of one of his little sisters. Dennis claims that this is the year he meets Jack Terrence Jr. However, this does not mean that Jack is living with Nora at this time, and I do not really see him sharing the same address until after 1972, which I think coincides with when he sells his home in San Jose. Jack, Dennis tells us at this point in time, Jack pulls his first dominant move on Dennis after Dennis smacked Jack's hand out of his mother's, declaring, "You're not my dad." Jack took Dennis aside to a room and told Dennis, "I don't want to be here any more than you want me here, but we are going to get along." So the side note to that was Jack could very well have sold this car to Nora. Dennis believed that it was Jack's car. So I'm not going to negate the fact that this may or may not have been the vehicle that was seen at Lake Berryessa. Just the evidence right now, as it's being presented, shows that Nora is the one that purchased it. And it looks like she signs and sells it, I want to say, by 1975. So the car was with them for quite some time.
Mm-hmm.
We did find additional letters to Hoover, which we've kind of found throughout these cases. I found some of the things that they were saying was interesting, because while all of us complain today that we can't seem to get law enforcement to do their job or look at the evidence or pay any attention, it's almost as if they just don't care to waste the time or resources on it anymore. But that shouldn't mean that you stop looking at the evidence. And this particular letter that was written to Hoover, it's more than one. We've seen one also written in the Black Dahlia case, another letter saying, "I think I know who it is. This is who you're looking for. You're looking for an Irishman." Like, there's some of the things that we were just talking about in the whole mafia realm of things was listed in that previous letter in 1947. This one says, Mr. J. Edgar Hoover, Chief FBI, Washington, D.C. Dear Sir. Now, we just got done reading a whole bunch of letters from D.B. Cooper where he said, "Dear Sirs." It says, "I believe that I have in my personal evidence, which may with the proper investigation disclose the name and identity of the Zodiac Killer of California. I would like to have your cooperation in this matter, as I have had absolutely no cooperation from law enforcement agencies. I remain yours truly," or "your truly." So just that statement alone, and we're talking 1971, we're talking literally 2 years after the Zodiac Killer concludes what they claim was his only tolls, which was 5 murders and 2 attempts. As little as 2 years in, somebody is complaining that he cannot get the local law enforcement agencies to look at his evidence or take him seriously. So it's not something that 40, 50 years later, like we're dealing with, where it's so far past that there's no interest in solving it, that the resources have been expended. This literally appears to me to be saying that they're purposely not investigating this case.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm going through my book. I think I have that one solved somewhere, so I'd have to send it to you when I find it.
The "I remain your truly."
There was something. Yeah, there was something
I don't know.
in there. There was something in there that caught my attention. I know I've done some of these, but anyways, yeah, it screams Jack 101, and that they're purposely not really going to go and arrest somebody in this, because there's some grand scheme of things going on and behind it all.
Well, I remember doing this in regards to the Amerithrax Committee and the anthrax letters, when I had I think sent out something like 40 faxes to all of the sitting senators and congressmen and everybody involved in the Amerithrax case, and didn't receive not one response from anybody in regards to it. So then I wrote to the governor, and I basically said the same thing. Look, I can't even get people to pay attention. And the government's response, you're going to love this, you guys, because this is happening in 1971, and I'm doing this in 2013. Their response was, and this is from Mr. Hoover's office, "I received your letter on December 20th, and the concern which prompted you to write is understandable. With regard to your communication, the matter you mentioned is not within the investigative jurisdiction of the FBI. It is suggested, however, that you may wish to advise the San Francisco, California Police Department of any information which pertains to the Zodiac Killer." I wanted to hit the floor. I was like, oh my God, I got the same letter from the government's office saying, "This isn't our business, that you need to contact local law enforcement." I'm like, holy crap, we just told you local law enforcement isn't even taking it seriously.
Wow.
Yeah.
Freaking deja vu. Like, I almost wanted to compare this to Jack's cursive writing. There is some significant differences in it. I have not done that handwriting examination yet, but I do think that I will possibly take a look at it and see how it compares. But it just, again, just shocking that you have a member of the public who is trying to give evidence in regards to the Zodiac killer, and they're being shunned by law enforcement as little as 2 years into this particular investigation. Absolutely mind-blowing. So I think in keeping with the times, the Watergate scandal and Nixon are in full swing. Maybe this is why so many references to the president. Also, Hillary Clinton did her part to show her true colors as a lying, unethical, and immoral Republican lawyer during this scandal. And I repeat that, Republican lawyer, guys. She is now, ever since we've known her in politics, she's been a Democrat. But back then, she was a Republican. Very interesting.
Yeah, she was on the staff of I think Leon Jaworski. She was a staff lawyer, researcher, and there's a picture of her in the book I have on the Watergate scandal.
Exactly. It's all wrapped up in the middle of everything dirty from day one. Now, what that makes me
Republicans.
Right.
The young Republicans.
So what happens in politics that causes one to flip sides? I mean, usually once you've chosen a side, you're pretty golden for most of your life. How do you go from being a Republican?
I think it might have been Bill Clinton. She ended up meeting Bill, and Bill was pretty liberal, so I think he kind of changed her a bit.
Oh, well, that could possibly be. I wouldn't put anything past what a man will do to a woman or a woman will do to a man. I just think of myself, what
money, that's all.
The money.
There was Hillary Rodham back in that day.
Right. And I literally would wonder where we would be at if she had made it to POTUS. Like, what kind of trouble would this world be in? Oh my God. Anyways, so Jack is it will always be the same people running it, right? So here we're showing some pictures of Lana, which is Jack's daughter, and I think this is her boyfriend at the time, but they're standing in front of a Christmas tree. The picture is labeled 1971 Lake Tahoe. So that is consistent with us knowing that Jack is in South Lake Tahoe during this time. Jack is working for the Lake Tahoe City Linen Company as a mechanic when he meets Nora, who is working there as well. The causal link to the San Francisco murders, where the laundry seems to be some ploy at the scene of the crime, which I think Harriet and I have both talked about this, correct?
Mm-hmm, yeah, there's one. I don't know if you have that article. You might find it somewhere where it's where Charles Jarman was the taxi guy that got killed a year after, or shot a year after Paul Stein. But what they had found outside was really weird linen folded a certain way, and they were all, if I remember correctly, facing north on a street somewhere nearby.
I think it was like stacked out as you were leaving the crime, you were finding stacks of these clothing or something like that.
No, there was it's an article in the newspaper. Sorry, it's just something I found when I was initially getting into the Zodiac cases, and I have it somewhere. But it's just that linen was folded a certain way, left outside, and I think there were the tops of the shirts were facing north. But yeah, it's linen being left behind. And then there's another case, I think is Judith Akari, or one of the other cases, 1970, about linen, a linen bag and things of that nature. Where these
a laundry bag
involved somehow. Yeah, laundry bags, linen bags. So, anyways, yeah, it's I think a weird way once you see it is connecting the cases together.
Well, he said he left clues out at his crime scenes. So that would definitely be a clue pointing back to a linen company, which we know that Jack is working for at this particular point in time. So laundered uniform and clothes. Oh, I think I do. I actually wrote it in here. Laundered uniform and clothes neatly folded in stacks as if leaving the scene. Plays into the Oakland County child killings or babysitter who washed the clothing of the victims and bathed them, which ties them right into the bathtub and waterway dump sites. Also, the purported accomplice, I don't think he's an accomplice. We'll get to his letter. I think he's actually the suspect, writing once again, states actually in it that he was bringing the children up in laundry bags, laundry hampers, basically. So we had another tie-in between laundry, linen, and so forth. Jack's daughter, Lana, seen to the right, worked at the same place as Donna Lass did at the Sahara Casino and was last seen leaving from. Donna Lass went missing from South Lake Tahoe, California at the Sahara Tahoe Casino. Pictures with Jack's writing on them during Christmas of 1971 in Lake Tahoe supports that he was there. And this is the year Jack tells Dennis Kaufman that he doesn't want to be there as much as Dennis didn't want him to be there. But that is how it's going to be, so he'd better get used to it. So to me, it looked like Jack has heeded the warning given in the newspaper 10/21 of 69 to disappear, change his looks, get a family, and stop killing. But the only time we really saw killing stop is right in that period of DB Cooper. So in November of 71, we don't see any murders until 72, which we're about to step into here in a second. And this is one of the reasons why I've kind of listed all of these different crimes together in this presentation as a possibility for Jack, because none of them overlap. You know, if we were having a murder on one day in California and a murder in I-45 or a murder in Freeway Phantom and on that same day, then we could collectively rule Jack out, because it would be literally near impossible for him to commit these crimes this far apart on the same exact day. And I say near impossible because if he's with the mob, he has a plane. He can get to wherever he needs to get to as quickly as possible, but it would make it more highly improbable that he was the killer of 3 people on the same day than us watching this actually not overlap segments and periods and timeframes going without any murders while other crime sprees are happening in different locations. This receipt right here actually confirms that Jack is still in San Jose area as late as 1972. It's dated January 14th of 1972, and it is a money order receipt from Wells Fargo Bank from the Livermore office branch in California, and it's issued to the Boilermakers Union for $19. And it says 2 months due and blood bank. I'm not sure what he means by that, but that's what's written in Jack's hand on here. Let's see. So pictures, this takes me back to him having been in the Union all the way back in Arkansas, and thus the pictures that we're seeing of the steel building or the steel stacks that are being built in the public company of Northern Illinois, which was another energy plant, basically. So July 8th of 1972, Jack is in a motorcycle accident in Cameron Park and sent to Marshall Hospital with injuries to his face, right elbow, and right shoulder. I'm betting this is where Jack, his back injury occurs again, but he blames it on work 2 months earlier or later. So he likely, if he messed him, and like Harriet had said, this may have been the offset of hurting himself when he was jumping out of the plane as DB Cooper, right?
Yeah. So why would they send him?
And then he got on the back of a motorcycle, if I remember correctly. After that, that's Dennis had the vague every time we would go through Reno, Dennis would stop talking and he would point to, for some reason, almost like he was in, I got to say it, like a trance. He would stop talking, whatever we were talking about. He'd say, see, right there, right there, right there. That's when Jack, he got injured right in behind the airport. And he got on the motorcycle and he had busted up his shoulder. He would always remember that, that the motorcycle and getting busted up. And that's why the FBI that he was working with was believing that Jack was the best DB Cooper suspect.
I don't know that. No, I never discussed DB Cooper ever, not even once with the FBI. I don't think that was ever even a consideration.
That Dennis would say this every time we were driving through there, but Dennis would remember Jack coming home that night to Nora's place, and that she nursed him. She gave him great hospitality. She nursed his broken shoulder, busted up shoulder.
Gotcha. So, now, what were you going to say, Nolan?
Yeah.
I'm wondering why they would send him to the VA hospital in Martinez when the VA hospital in Sacramento, Rancho Cordova, would be a lot closer to Cameron Park.
Right. Yeah, it doesn't make any sense to go that far out. Well, they did say the next day they sent him to the VA hospital in Martinez, California. So initially he went to the Marshall Hospital, and then later to the Martinez VA.
Was that Placerville or?
At Cameron, well, he was in the accident in Cameron Park, so yeah, I'm not sure where Marshall
Probably
Hospital
Placerville.
is.
Yeah.
Gotcha. I just know that these are all listed in his work comp case. So it was typed up in there with this information. Now, Jack still owns his home at 2415 Dobrin Way, as far as we can tell, in San Jose until 1972. This is where he had that basement that had a photo lab in it where Dennis believes that he was recreating the old pictures or evidence that he had on Black Dahlia and otherwise onto 110 film, which we can definitely see those pictures from what he believed to be Black Dahlia. They were literally, you can see that they were literally pictures that were then reproduced as another picture. And maybe all he did was then take a picture with the 110 film. He never actually developed that film and destroyed that other evidence, because as Dennis would say, if they came in looking for pictures from 1947, they weren't looking for 110 rolls of film. So they would have just kicked that to the side, thinking it had nothing to do with it. We probably see a picture of them together in Stevens Creek, California, even though they met in South Lake Tahoe. And Jack begins working for the Linen Company in 1971 until September of 1972 due to a back injury. So Charles Terrence had lived in Burlingame, or the San Jose area as well, which is another avenue or proximity to that area where Jack would still have a place to go if he was in the Bay Area. All right. We also see that Doris Reynolds, while she is separated from Jack at this point, and I believe that we've already seen that she attempted to file a divorce, that one did not go through. But on May 2nd of 1972, we see a letter that is being mailed to Doris Reynolds in San Jose, California. This paperwork is kept by Jack for some odd reason. So again, it makes me wonder, is he still seeing Doris while he's making this new home with Nora? How does he end up with this particular document if he is currently with Nora? Although that begs the question, how does he bring Doris's son back to Nora's house in South Lake Tahoe when he gets released from CYA? Like, the whole thing is just a very strange circumstance. But we do know that Jack actually was cheating on Letha with Doris, right? Because he wasn't divorced from Letha yet when he was dating Doris, and Doris ran after him to Texas in '63. But here's a picture of her up in the right-hand corner with another car that Dennis believed was something that was likened, or at least seen by an eyewitness, that was, I think, described as a Renault. Do you recall that one, Harriet?
No, there was just so many cars. So that one I don't recall.
Right. And I don't have enough of an image of it to compare it to anything to feel secure that I could identify what type of a car that was. But Dennis, I think in his book, what's that?
From the picture, it looks like an interesting shaped vehicle. It's not real boxy. It looks like it's got some curve to it.
Right. So, it doesn't have any hard lines like I would expect to see from that time frame.
Right. One little aside, in 72, see the address Story Road, San Jose? In 72, I had two uncles and aunts living in the Story Road apartments in May of 72. Just a coincidence.
Wow.
Well, but I'm betting they're not the Zodiac.
No, they were students at San Jose State.
Well, and that brings us to our first set of murders. I don't know how this one made it here because May is obviously after February, but our first murders back after the D.B. Cooper caper is on February 4th, 1972. Yvonne Weber and Maureen Sterling from the Redwood Empire Ice Arena, last seen hitchhiking from Guerneville Road, Santa Rosa, and the first murder after D.B. Cooper. Now, did you have anything that indicated that you thought that these were actual murders of the Zodiac, Harriet?
No, when I started working on the evidence, they definitely weren't. It comes out as the best way I can describe it, because you asked me, how do you do the evidence? This was relayed in the UPI, all this same system, but I was often wondering, how would they see things at night? It has something to do with the West Coast NORAD and the skies, and the eyes in the sky. And no, they were not victims of Jack, but his crew was in on trying to follow, because they were in the end trying to bring down Hoffa and Giancana, and they were trying to follow who was committing these murders so they can at least cut out the shrubbery and the weeds and everything that was underneath that was holding up Hoffa and Giancana, which in the end had to do with cocaine. So no, Weber and Sterling were victims of not very pleasant things that has to do with that they were sent to the Saudi Prince group. I can go on, but
so it's more of
wanted
a
me to read the
pedophile
evidence.
type thing.
No, I can read the solve because it's very complex. It brings out Lori Lee Cursa too, and who's the foster mother, and it involves
have
John
that?
LaVey Walsh.
Do you
Yes,
have that
I
solved?
have it. Well, let me just read to you what I came up with that the evidence was that it was more. I'll just read it, okay, and then I'll read the anagram. That was just simply anagramming it. Weber and Sterling decode of clues and evidence. I did it on March 30th, 2022. And the name is Maureen Louise Sterling, mother Arlene Sterling Place. That's her last name was Place. She remarried. And then the address of 3545 Midway Drive, Santa Rosa, California, 95405. Yvonne Lisa Weber, mother Sheila Weber Harrington, she also remarried. Stepfather David, 3365 Holland Drive, Santa Rosa, California, 95404. And then it's, I believe, 2472 Herbert Slater Junior High School students, Redwood Empire Ice Arena, 1667 West Steel Lane, Santa Rosa, California, 95403, about 7:30 post meridian, scheduled pickup 11 post meridian, intercar Guerneville Road, 9 post meridian, blue jeans, purple pullover shirt, red zip up hooded sweatshirt, jacket, brown suede shoes, blue jeans, lavender and white tweed pullover, shirt, black velvet coat, brown suede shoes, bones found 122872, 66 feet off down east side Friends Valley Road, 14K, gold necklace, basket dash weave, design cross, 1 filigree drop earring with orange beads, and then it's 2.7 miles north of Porter Creek Road. Then anagram it. It comes out as PN for President Nixon, HRH, that's for Halderman, DC, 2472, Garberville, Walsh, Tot son, Japanese name, Danran, LDS, that's Latter-day Saints, Lori Lee Cursa, foster mother of 3545 Midway Drive, Arlene Sterling Place, drop off Maureen Louise Sterling and Yvonne Lisa Weber at 1667 West Steel Lane, 7:30 p.m., Santa Rosa, California, 95403, 9 p.m. Mother Sheila Weber Harrington of 3365 Holland Drive, stepfather David career airline pilot brother-in-law, that's James Personette, scheduled sell girls to Saudi Prince Group studs, believed sale repay 14 kilo cocaine debt raised 11 p.m. John Edward Walsh Jr. and meat cutter Ronald Bruce Cursa, red Dodge wooden camper, unzipped fornicate the two slaves sent to Saudi Arabia, about 12/4/72, December 4th, 1972. Ursuline Sisters High wife, Reve, received the two dead. She give 94558 Detective Narlo, loose bones, vet shovel tee off, down right side, 2.7 miles north of Porter Creek Road, tossed. They were DOA. And
so now I did have that one person who came at me saying that they believed that the Zodiac killer was in Saudi Arabia or from Saudi Arabia, spent some time there. So now you're bringing up information. So if they were sent over December 4th of 72 to Saudi Arabia, how did they end up back in California, December 28th, 1972, dead? And their remains are
well, they were sent, and I got another one with this airline pilot. He was a Saudi
no.
airline
I'm running out of minutes now. I just need to stick to these
Okay.
questions. So how did they end up in Saudi Arabia on December 4th of 72, but their remains found December 28th, and it's just bones? I mean, here's the information I have on the case. They were 12 years old, were last seen getting into a vehicle in front of the Redwood Empire Ice Arena, where one of their mothers had dropped them off for an evening of ice skating. The remains were not found for over 10 months. Skeletal remains were found. So that means that they had to have time to become skeletized. Remains were found in a rural area December 28, 1970. Okay. Hold on. Let me finish. Skeletal remains were found in a rural area December 28, 1972. Only one earring was found at the scene. I was just flipping through my presentation because I do have a drop earring, like the teardrop shape earring, but you said filigree. I don't know what material that is. But it says only one earring was found at the scene. A cross for a necklace was also found. Last seen getting into a vehicle at the ice arena. Only one ear. That's repeating. See pictures of 4 different earrings. We're going to look at that. I don't think we'll get to it today, but that was found in Jack's belongings and found on Porter Creek Road on Franz Valley Road near where Kim Allen was found. Cause of death unknown due to skeletal remains. So now answer that question. So you were saying that you believe that they were eaten?
They were sent to the Saudi Prince group and a whole bunch of horrible things. There's a whole bunch of sexual activity there, but then because like the animals would eat the remains, very, very sick and cut up, and because they were just treated like garbage.
Wow.
And so then all that was left was the skeletal remains.
I wonder
very
how long.
disgusting.
Go ahead, Nolan.
In a 10-month time period, there would have been plenty of time to get them to Saudi Arabia and then back to Northern California, because they were found 10 months later, and the bodies could have been decomposed. But I'm not, I don't want to accept the notion that they were eaten.
Yeah, it is good.
Well, I think what she was meaning was more or less like by animals in the wild.
Oh, perhaps.
So, and maybe what you really have is not when they were taken. Maybe the December 4th, 1972 is not when they were taken to Saudi Arabia, but maybe returned from Saudi Arabia. That would give almost
more sense.
It was the bones were returned. The bones were returned. That's what the Salva is saying. So
that makes a lot more sense.
Yeah.
So they get them out of the country and place them somewhere else, so it's never even associated to that particular. Okay. Well, and that really kind of brings back like the Polly Klaas and the John Walsh stuff, from people being abducted right out of their homes or what have you. But either way, all right. So let's see. We're down to our last minute, so I'm not going to climb into this next one, but it was going to be Kim Allen, which I think you mentioned as well. We'll get back to this one next week then. And I want to thank you guys all for being here. Does anybody want to add anything at the last minute?
No.
Just enjoy the heat. It's coming. So deal with it.
I'm going to do my best.
I got my... I'll just say enjoy the heat. All right.
All right, everybody, you have a wonderful weekend, and we will see you next Friday when we come back to continue the information and these Santa Rosa hitchhiker murders. Everybody take care. No.